Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Dr. Deirdre J. Williams. Welcome to Savvy Broadcasting, Life Unscripted. I'm so grateful to have you here today. We are going to be talking about Sylvan Learning. You've recently taken over the Houston suburb area, and you're helping children reach their fullest potential, find what they're most jazzed about, and bring their full potential to life later on. Because I don't know, we didn't get to chat very much before we got started here, but I had severe learning issues with dyslexia and didn't learn to read till I was 16. So what you are doing with Sylvan Learning is just so important. So welcome to Savvy.
Thank you so much for having me, Christina.
Yeah. So what was your impetus for buying or acquiring Sylvan Learning in this area?
So I want to start really by sharing that I have been in education over 18 years in Houston. I started out actually in Houston Independent School District as an educator. So this is the work that I absolutely love to do. Working with children is the work. That is my passion. So I actually love this topic of how do we ignite the passion for learning in students. It really started with my passion for teaching as an educator. And so Sylvan actually gave me the opportunity. I've been a teacher, school leader, district leader, loved all of those roles. And I transitioned to supporting leaders, aspiring leaders to become principals, aspiring teachers to become teachers. And I actually at some point, I missed working directly with children. So Sylvan is this opportunity for me to have best of both worlds.
That's
to
awesome.
Continue working with adults, coaching them, and I have the opportunity daily to lean in and connect with students.
Now, I'd like to get your feedback because I was actually in the Virginia school system and they didn't know what was up with me. They took until 16 until they did a bunch of tests to realize I was dyslexic. A lot of my teachers just thought I was lazy. Why do you think some kids fall through the cracks or have issues with academics and don't reach their full potential? What's your perspective?
So you just asked the question, and the first thing you said was they didn't really know what was up with me.
Yeah.
Kids don't learn until the adults learn. And so we have to, as we are recognizing things that are happening with individual children in schools, we have to start taking notes about that. What are we seeing? What's happening? I haven't seen this before, but that requires creating this culture. In schools, it requires creating this culture where adults are meeting often to talk about, I'm seeing this, I've never seen this before. I'm observing this. I don't know what's happening here. And so adults have to start learning together. That has to be a part of, this has to happen before we get into classrooms, right? For adults. And that means when we're coming together, it's intentional adults learning together about children with learning differences. I've actually kind of stopped saying disabilities as much because even it's a difference. It's not that you can't learn. There's a difference in how you learn. And we can't leave students out of the adult learning process. So this is really a part of what we're doing at Sylvan, actually. We're asking students, what's happening when you see that you're having difficulty with reading, can you tell me exactly what's happening? What's happening up here? What are you thinking? Right?
Yeah.
What's this process when you are visibly getting frustrated? I'm as a teacher, I see you visibly getting frustrated. What are you thinking? What's happening exactly at that moment? Now the adults are able to come together. We're talking about what we are seeing so that we can start helping the child. So part of that igniting this passion is helping students to take agency and advocate for themselves, because now they're able to clearly articulate, I'm mixing up. I'm thinking I'm writing a 5, but that's not what I'm writing. It's supposed to be written this way, but I'm actually writing it that
Yeah.
way. And so this is constant observation. I'm learning as a teacher, I'm writing, I'm observing my students, I'm recognizing this. For the student, we're also telling the student, when you see that you're having a challenge, name it at that moment. This is what I'm having a challenge with.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you're going to ask me a question?
Yeah, I'm just it's so exciting to me. I wish you guys were around when I was having difficulty because I couldn't put to words what was going on. It was so frustrating. I'm sitting here like everyone else is reading this, everyone's writing this properly, and I feel like a dope that I can't put thoughts and I have understanding. What confused my teachers is they said you raise your hand, you give the right answer, so we know you have understanding of concepts, but the putting it to paper, thoughts to paper was
Yes.
or reading it was like asking me to stand up and read was like, shoot me. I hated it because I got made fun of, I got laughed at. And so I love the idea that learning doesn't end for the teachers either. It's an ongoing process of learning and with other teachers, like what are we seeing here, how can we better help our students. And I love that you say give agency to the students so that they can be their own advocate, because I didn't feel I had that either as a student.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Right.
awesome.
So
Well,
it's interesting that you say this, Christina, because in our Missouri City location,
mhm.
we didn't start out thinking it would happen this way, but we have a good number of students with autism, with students with individualized education plans in schools, and that has just become that is definitely one of the centers where it's showing us we had to create this academic profile, this learning profile for each student and really start talking about for our teachers, how do we support students who come in with autism, who come in with dyslexia, who come in with whatever other learning difference that they have. So
Mm.
it's interesting that you shared that about you, because one of our centers has really become, and I think parents are communicating, our children are having success and we're getting more and more students there, and we welcome them. We welcome them because we know for every student where we say there's a gap, there's also a gift. And so that's what we have to be intentional about. What's the gift that they come with? And we're using that gap, that gift, as a bridge to help us to fill the gap.
I love that. Now I'm also thinking, because now many years being in myself, in my body, and living experience of how I understand life and reading and writing, I realize that I'm more of a kinetic feel type person and not so much visual. And so what's interesting that we have different ways that information comes into us and we understand the world. Is Sylvan, through this process of helping people who learn differently, finding different ways to teach, not just maybe visually, but using the different senses to get through to children, to educate them?
Definitely. So with Sylvan, every student has a personalized, individualized learning plan. Okay. So it's not, we've been doing tutoring. Schools, different companies are doing tutoring, but there's really something really different about the way we do things at Sylvan. And I absolutely love it. And part of that piece that's different for Sylvan is that we really work hard to make sure that we figure out what is it about the individual student. And so in the midst of each student comes in, they have an assessment. We kind of see exactly what skills, what is it that we need in order to support the student. That's that quantitative piece.
Mm-hmm.
But the qualitative piece is us digging in to ask the student,
Mm.
in the midst of all of this, when we have to deliver and give you access to this plan, what are the other things we want to make sure that we're giving you? And that's part of what you just said. You're tactile. You need to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our students need to stand. Some of them, yes, some of them need their individual whiteboards. Some it's just all of these different ways of learning and knowing. And
Mm-hmm.
we make sure that we start to discover that and find that out during the first conference, but then some things just come as you keep working with the student over time. So that profile that we create for each kid, we keep, that's continuous. We keep talking and updating and taking notes and adding notes to how to serve the individual student.
That's fascinating. Now, I'm wondering also, because for me, one thing is to learn the knowledge, but then there's the applied knowledge. Like you've been educated in writing, reading, math, whatever it might be. But now, how do you apply it and integrate it into your life? How important is, say, bringing that last piece, the applied knowledge, into it? And does Sylvan also help with that portion as well?
Definitely, definitely. So here's what we know: when every student walks through our doors, we don't expect that we're going to have them forever, right? So so in the center, I say I communicate to my tutors, look, you're an academic coach, but you're really, in a sense, you're a child life coach. What are the skills, what are the tools we need to give our students that they're able to apply this learning when they leave? Because they won't stop having challenges in the midst of learning. There are going to be some challenges. I need to learn how to study. I need my study skills. I need to learn how to communicate. It's also, we're working on confidence, right? We're working on building confidence. And so when we think about academics and then we think about the social emotional piece, part of that is self-awareness. So we're also teaching that kind of skill. What does self-awareness look like? And what tools do I have as I'm self-aware? Now, then what tools do I have to apply when I start to recognize things, when I'm no longer with Sylvan, that I can use in life?
Well, Dr. Williams, this reminds me of a coach we had on. He was a football coach, but also would help students in the high school with general exercise and fitness and such. And he said a lot of the kids that come in will be very not confident, don't really understand their body. But what I found interesting in the teaching he had with them and having more teaching them to better work with their body and have confidence in themselves and how they utilize their body is that came out into other areas of their life, including academics. So, because sometimes, when you have the art part or the PE part, you're like, well, what is that? That's just recess time or whatever. But it's interesting that each of the different parts of school can be integral in helping the student become the best they can become and also become more confident as a human being.
That's right. That's right. And I believe that's a part of it's interesting. My husband, who is one of my partners with Sylvan Learning, was football coach. And so in the learning centers, they call him coach. They call him coach in our Sylvan Learning Centers. But part of that is once you help a student to realize what their strengths are and how those strengths became strengths, then they're able to continue to use whatever their strengths are to start developing the areas where they need improvement, or that sometimes we call them weaknesses, but areas for improvement I can capitalize on. How do I use the strengths that I have to influence developing the areas that are not so strong? That's what we do in life. That's what we do as adults.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that I love this way of looking at things, because we're not going to be strong at everything. Every single human being has their own set of strength and things they're not as good at. And it's okay if you're not good in everything and optimal, because that's just how you're built. You have your certain strengths and skills and talents, and that's perfect. My skill is actually more verbal. Like I can communicate much more easily verbally than I can on paper, as you can imagine. But I've learned to utilize that, AKA through this podcast we're having right now. But so yeah, so this has been fabulous. I don't want anyone to leave. There might be parents, because most of our listening audience do have children, and maybe they would like to get their children into a Sylvan Center to help their kids learn more efficiently. How could they do that?
Yes, so they're able to either go online to look up Sylvan Learning Center. We're Sylvan Learning Center, Missouri, Texas, and Sylvan Learning Spring Humble. So they can do a search for Sylvan Learning Missouri City, or Sylvan Learning Spring Humble. We're actually getting ready to open another center in Pecan Grove in the Richmond, Texas area. So they're able to do that. They're also able to call. All right. So we are connecting with parents and email. So we're Sylvan Learning at intouch.net. They can email us, they can call, or they can when they do the Google search of Sylvan Learning at Missouri City, our numbers come up.
Awesome.
Yes.
Now, can I ask you, if they're in, say, another state or town, can they work with you guys virtually, or do they have to go to their local Sylvan Center? How does that work?
So how that typically works is there's a first make sure that they've looked to see if there's a Sylvan Learning locally
Yeah.
before they reach out to one of the Sylvan Learnings in another area.
Makes sense.
And we support schools and districts as well. We are partners to schools and districts, so we're also supporting with tutoring in the school. So districts and schools can also contact us if they want support, if they want to partner with us to provide tutoring to their students.
Yeah, and this brings me to my last follow-up here is if there's teachers in these districts that say they want to learn better how to serve their students, could they maybe tutor themselves to learn how they could greater help their students in their district?
They actually can. They actually can tutor. Part of what we do at Sylvan is very structured, very intentional professional learning. We provide that for our tutors. So teachers definitely learn how to see the confidence we build in students. It's really about the connection that we have in students and the competence. I never want to leave that out. Great teaching is connecting with students and having the competence to teach them.
Boom. It's just not one side. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. This is fabulous, Dr. Williams. I'm just so grateful for the work you do, and everyone at Sylvan Learning. I'm so grateful. I wish you guys had been around when I was a kid in Virginia, because it would have been really helpful. But I did have some wonderful teachers that would stay late to help me, and I eventually did learn to read. So I'm so grateful for the teachers that did help me. But thank you so much for all the wonderful work you do. Yes, and for coming to Savvy Broadcasting today. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.